Attention, you're listening to The Todd Huff Show, America's home for conservative, not bitter talk and education. Be advised, the content of this program has been documented to prevent and even cure liberalism, and listening may cause you to lean to the right. And now, coming to you from the Full Suite Wealth Studios, here's your conservative but not bitter host, Todd Huff.
So many things, my friends, to discuss today here on the program. We've got the proposed Iran nuclear deal, which we have the 14 points that have been released in the media. We'll talk about that. We have J.D. Vance going on and talking with the ladies of The View, which we can talk about that as well. And time permitting, now this is very important to me, but it's also, given the restraints, I guess, of the program, how long we have each and every day, sometimes it's difficult to get to everything that I want to get to. And so I would like to get to what's happening in Major League Baseball, pertaining to their pride hats and the players that have begun to respond by writing Bible verses on these hats. And of course, what that means for Major League Baseball. There is a lot of noise coming from Washington, D.C., from Senator Josh Hawley. So that's something I would like to get to as well. But my friends, I'll do my best. I will do my level best to get us there. All right. Before I do that, though, my friends, I have a quick question for you. Do you know where your money goes after you spend it? And I don't mean specifically everywhere that the dollar is spent, but I mean when you hand your money to a company for a product or service, do you know if it's being used to promote causes that you strongly disagree with? If that answer makes you cringe, it's time to check out Freedom Marketplace. We built this platform here at the Todd Huff Show to connect conservatives like you with businesses that share your values, businesses that refuse to support leftist causes. It is free to use. There's no login required, though you certainly can create an account. There's no login required. It's all about keeping your dollars aligned with your principles. That website is freedommarketplace.net. Again, that's freedommarketplace.net. Liberty and business, my friends, for all. Let's start here by going through the details of this the U.S.-Iran deal. It's a 12-point plan. I'm looking here at the New York Post, but this was first reported on by reporter Barak Ravid from Axios. But I'm looking here at the 12 points that have been posted here at the NewYorkPost.com. You'll find this in a lot of places, but I just want to go through this. Let's set the stage again. We have a nation, the Islamic Republic of Iran, who has been in constant turmoil with the West, with Western civilization, with liberty around the world since its inception in 1979. The people of Iran are the victims here. They are not part of the problem. These folks had this government forced upon them, this extreme radical ideology forced upon them. They have tried on several occasions to get momentum to overthrow this government. And the government has responded by killing 40,000 people, it's reported, in this latest attempt to try to overthrow the government. So they are victimized by this government as well. This government, the Iranian regime, the Ayatollahs of Iran, are forcing not just terrible conditions upon the people of their own country, not just by taking away their liberties and oppressing them and forcing them under their theocratic regime, that's not just where this thing stops. It extends beyond those borders. It extends to the Middle East, and it threatens the entire world. The Iranian government has killed U.S. service members for a long time by providing IEDs and weaponry to people who have been fighting the United States in that region. They work through proxy groups. A proxy is just a group that you can work directly with while maintaining some sort of plausible deniability or some level of they're not within an arm's reach sort of thing, to where you can say, hey, that wasn't really us. We're not the ones doing this. We don't control Hezbollah or any of these other groups, Hamas. They go out there and do their own things. We're not partnered with them. Wink, wink, right? This is how this works. They are pursuing a nuclear weapon. They've told us repeatedly. I marvel at the people who say that it is fake news that the Iranians are threatening to wipe Israel off the face of the planet if they have a nuclear weapon. They have done this. They have done this openly. They have done this publicly. This is not a secret. This is something that is there for anybody who cares to understand and to pay attention. They have made their intentions very clear. It is time the United States of America start taking their stated intentions very seriously. And so they chant death to America. They do this. People act like they don't do that as well. Well, if they do, Todd, it's because America deserves to be destroyed. America is wicked and evil. It is wild to me. It is wild to me the level of just refusing to accept reality, the amount of placing one's head in the sand, the amount of hatred one must have for this country. It is amazing to me how far down that path someone has to go for them to believe that in the story, in the narrative between the United States and the Islamic Republic of Iran, that the United States of America is the bad guys. That is false. That is fake. That is ridiculous. The United States, while not perfect, I'm not here to say the United States is perfect. I'm here to say the United States of America has a much, much better, infinitely better government. And I don't mean the officials. I mean the framework. I mean the founding. I mean how it is set up to operate. Our government is infinitely better than what the people of Iran are living under. I don't know what's so hard to understand or accept about this. They are brutal. It is just, I think about these stupid man on the street interviews where literally you'll have people who are on the streets telling reporters, telling social media influencers, whoever, that they would feel safer in the Islamic Republic of Iran as a member of the LGBT community, all those other letters tacked on there as well. They would feel safer in Iran than they would in the United States of America. This is preposterous. This is not serious. These people are either beyond ignorant or willing participants in a false narrative. This is just not reality at all. The nation of Iran has made their intentions clear. They have proven in the past that they are prepared to engage in violence, even though it's through proxy. But we've seen that they have a willingness to maybe ratchet it up, especially if they have a nuclear weapon. That was the world in which we entered into this war a couple of months ago with the Islamic Republic of Iran. It is 100% inexcusable for the Islamic Republic of Iran to have a nuclear weapon. Iran having a nuclear weapon is nothing like the United States of America having a nuclear weapon. It is nothing like the nation of Israel having a nuclear weapon. It is nothing like anybody else having a nuclear weapon who currently has one, except potentially North Korea, who, by the way, Bill Clinton paved the way for them to get a nuclear weapon as well. We thought that because they signed a piece of paper and give a sworn pinky promise to Bill Clinton that they were not going to develop a nuclear weapon. And lo and behold, look at where we are today. The people of, the deranged leader of North Korea has a nuclear weapon thanks to the complacency of the United States of America under the President Bill Clinton, and others who agree or who put value in these signed documents when you're dealing with people like Kim Jong-un in North Korea or like the radical Ayatollahs in the Islamic Republic of Iran. So it was believed that Iran was on the precipice once again. I understand why people think, you can't believe. I don't believe what I hear in the media, but I do believe that Iran has been close for some time to having a nuclear weapon. That is 100% unacceptable. If we think these conditions are complicated now to navigate with Iran, just wait until the possibility of them really having a nuclear weapon. And it changes the game dramatically, my friends. If we're having trouble negotiating it into this war, to this conflict, when they don't have a nuclear weapon, imagine what it's going to be like if, and God forbid when, they get a nuclear weapon. And so we've been on this path. People just either don't want to understand or have bought into the leftist narrative that this is something else, led by, and it is led in part by Benjamin Netanyahu and the Israelis. And you know what? It should be. It should be. This is in their backyard. They would be the first people who would feel the direct consequences of Iran getting a nuclear weapon. And so that was the world in which the war began. Trump decided, and he was correct in this, my friends. He was correct in saying the Islamic Republic of Iran should never have a nuclear weapon. These people leading this nation are evil. These people leading this nation believe that they have a mandate, a dictate from God, from Allah, to basically kill anyone who does not convert to their particular religion. Don't even come at me with comparisons to American Christianity. If you think this, listen. American Christians do not behave like this. I can't speak for all of them, but I will tell you this. Jesus gave me a choice. The God of the Bible, Yahweh, gave his people a choice. And candidly, we often made a choice. We all have made the choice to not submit to his lordship and authority at least once in our lives. And the truth is, many more times than that, we've placed ourselves as the God of our own worlds, and we have paid the consequence for that. But he gives us the choice to do that. You're given the choice to follow Christ in Christianity. Now, there might be some overbearing Christians out there, but a lot of Christians that you find that you think are trying to quote unquote force you to believe, that's an impossibility, by the way, especially when Christianity is a relationship. It's not an adherence to a set of principles, though. When you have a relationship with the one, the God of the universe, through Jesus Christ, his son, if you have that relationship with him, the Bible says that if you love me, you will obey my commandments. And so there is a natural fruit, the Bible would say, that is born from that relationship. But you don't become a Christian by following and adhering to certain things, for praying a certain number of times a day, for visiting a certain holy site. That's not how it works. I do want to always go through the gospel message, but suffice it to say, the short form answer to this is that humanity has sinned. That sin demands payment. God is a just God. And originally that payment was made through the sacrifices given in the Old Testament and in the New Testament. And in today's world, we have the opportunity to have our sins forgiven by the blood of the Lamb, Jesus Christ himself. That's what Christianity is. It's not go to church on Sunday or you've angered God, and if you don't show up at church on Sunday, I'm going to show up with a weapon. That is not what it is at all. And I'm going to make you submit and go to church or not. That's not at all what it means. It means that to these folks running the nation of Iran, and they believe they have a green light to do whatever it takes. Emphasis on whatever. If that means a nuclear strike, so be it. These people, they say, do not submit to Islam, do not submit to Allah, and so they will pay the price. That's the people. That's the framework in which this whole thing started. And, a lot of Americans have no idea because they've been told that we are not engaged in a war with the radical Islamists, that it's not a holy war. It certainly is to them, my friends. It is about time that we understand and accept that, because reality is a good place to live. It's a good place to reside. You won't be making decisions that are helpful and effective if you refuse to accept and live in reality. This, of course, is one of the many problems faced by the godless radical left. So that's the world. And if you go back and you look at the politics surrounding this issue, you'll find Democrats saying pretty much the same sorts of things, not to the same degree, not with the same amounts of clarity, not with the same amount of conviction, but you will certainly see or hear them say much of what I just said. Go back and listen to the previous politicians. President Biden, remember when he was asked, President Bribery, I should say, when he was asked, what does he want to say to the Islamic Republic of Iran about the acquisition of, the development of a nuclear weapon? He said, don't. Kamala Harris said basically the same thing. Don't do it. We all understood it was a bad thing. And the problem is that there comes a time when they say, we're not going to listen to you. We don't respect you. We don't fear you. We don't care what the consequences are, whatever. And so that's the world in which Trump stepped in. So that's where I want to pick up, and I want to give the 12 points in this negotiated Iran deal. I'll do that, my friends, here in just a moment. Maybe you've reached that stage where managing your money feels like juggling more than just numbers. There's tax planning, there's estate work, investment choices, a whole lot more. That's when family office services can really make a difference. Full Suite Wealth brings all those pieces together into one cohesive strategy. Their family office services give you access to a coordinated team with advanced option strategies, private equity, private credit, legal expertise, all those things, my friends, under one roof. It's about simplifying your financial life. Boy, doesn't that feel good just to hear that? Simplifying it, making it simpler and easier. It's about planning for the future and making sure your legacy stays strong for generations to come. If you're ready for that next level of support, visit fullsuitewealth.com. That's fullsuitewealth.com. Build your legacy, secure your future. Okay, so let's get into as much of this as I can. I'll move into the next segment if I need to. Here is the reports of what the framework for the 12-point plan, the negotiated end to this war between the United States and Iran. Briefly, I'll say this is just what's reported at this particular point in time. And the other thing is there's a lot of work yet to be done. You'll find that there are details to be negotiated and worked out over the next 60 days or so. So there's still going to be some question marks about the details. But suffice it to say, if you really want to understand where Trump is coming from, if you really want to understand what matters to Trump, what he's looking for in this deal, the most important, bottom line, non-negotiable is that Iran will not, cannot, never have a nuclear weapon. So here we go. First point, Iran, the U.S., and their allies would stop fighting across the region. That includes in Lebanon, as they say. You know, where I'm from, there's a little town to the north of me that we call Lebanon, but we refer to the nation as Lebanon. So that's the first thing. The fighting in the region between Iran, the U.S., and the allies of America is going to stop across the region. Number two, Tehran would reaffirm its pledge to never build a nuclear weapon. From the United States perspective, this is the pinnacle. This is the most important piece of this equation. Now, some people will say, well, Todd, that's what we had. That's what we had with Barack Obama's Iran nuke deal. That's not what we had. We had actually a path for Iran to end up with a nuclear weapon Sure, it was set up to delay that over the course of time, but it ended with Iran being closer to developing a nuclear weapon and basically getting a path to do that, not to mention pallets of cash there at the beginning. But this is the thing that Trump has said, this is the red line in the sand. It doesn't matter. You cannot cross this. There's not, if this is the one thing we have to get. And that's reportedly part of this. But of course, having, again, a pinky pledge and a signed sheet of paper does not guarantee this. There's going to have to be enforcement mechanisms. There's going to have to be inspection mechanisms. There's going to have to be what Reagan called a trust but verify sort of approach here. So that's the second point. Number 3, the United States and Iran would work out what happens to Tehran's enriched uranium stockpile. So they've developed a stockpile of enriched uranium materials. And so now we have to decide what's going to be done with that. The agreement says that will be worked out. This is, again, Trump's position is going to be anything that could potentially be weaponized. It is not going to be allowed to remain in Iran. Of course, again, we've got inspections, we've got verifications, we've got enforcement mechanisms that are going to have to be attached to all of these things. Number 4, both sides would open talks on Iran's future enrichment activities and nuclear needs. Now, if you remember, if you want to know how we got here, I'll give you the Cliff's Notes version here in the next 30 seconds or so. But basically, Iran said they needed to develop nuclear energy to provide power, electricity to people across their nation. That nuclear energy was the way they needed to go to make sure that they met the electricity needs of the people in the Islamic Republic of Iran. Now, I'm a guy that's not against nuclear. I understand not wanting those things in your backyard and that sort of thing, but the idea of nuclear power, there's a lot of good that can come from that. But for Iran to want to do this, especially when they oppress their people so much, we should at least look at that with some skepticism, especially when, even though enriching uranium for electricity or power purposes doesn't get it to weapons grade uranium, it certainly gets them in that direction, and it builds out that infrastructure so that they are closer to getting weapons grade uranium on the backside of this. I've got to take a break. Clock said it's time to take a time out, my friends, and I will oblige. You're listening here to Conservative Not Bitter Talk. I am your host, Todd Huff. Back in just a minute. Welcome back, my friends. We're going through the news reports of what this Iran deal to end this war between the United States and Iran, what this is looking like. We've gone through, what have we gone through for? We've gone through the first 4 of the 12 points. I want to get through this and continue our discussion on other things. I'd like to get to J.D. Vance, and I would definitely like to get to the Giants or the Major League Baseball fight over wearing the pride hats and whether or not players can write Bible verses on those. So I'm not going to get there. I know. I just want to tell you that that's where I want to head, and we'll try to get to some of these things later in the week. So the 5th point here, the Iran deal. Iran would maintain the status quo of its nuclear program, which has been largely decimated while negotiations continue. So the nuclear program is not going to change. It shouldn't be built upon, but they don't have to tear anything apart at this particular point in the process as they finalize the long-term agreement here over the course of what would be 60 days if we follow what has been reported and so forth. Number 6, the U.S. would lift its naval blockade, hold off on new sanctions, and refrain from sending more troops to the region. Again, that is this is a win, obviously, for Iran. It's a win for everybody who doesn't want to see war escalating in the region. But that's part of this agreement as reported as well. Iran would guarantee safe, toll-free passage for commercial ships through the Strait of Hormuz for those 60 days. That's part of this agreement as well. This has, of course, caused a supply disruption around the world for energy, for oil. We've all felt this at the gas pumps. This is not going to immediately fix that because we've got to get caught back up. I mean, some of this just is going to take some time. So, but this should begin the process of bringing, of setting the conditions at least to bring down the price of oil, the price of gas at the gas pumps. I guess this would be number 7. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I guess I may be one behind. I think this is number 8. Washington would release an unspecified amount of frozen Iranian assets once the memo of understanding takes effect. So remember, we're dealing with people who have made threats and engaged in violence through proxies against the United States of America. As such, because of their terrorist sympathies and because of their violence against the United States of America, we have frozen assets of Iran. And so a certain amount of these, an unspecified amount, will be unfrozen during this process. I guess that was number 8. Number 9, a final deal would be reached after the 60 days that would then see the U.S. would withdraw its forces within 30 days and lift all sanctions on Iran. It would also pave the way for a $300 billion. I wish it was $300. A reconstruction fund for Iran. This is something that J.D. Vance had spoken about. He says Iran is not going to get that $300 billion reconstruction fund unless they totally transform themselves. So that's important to understand. We have a framework for an agreement. We really have the framework to stop fighting so that we can negotiate a final agreement. As I've told you before, and as I'm going to say on this program yet again, if you haven't read the book, The Art of War by Sun Tzu, I would strongly consider that you consider doing that, because a lot of this is going to make more sense. We've obviously gotten to the point to where this is a serious conversation, but there's nothing that guarantees that this is not another tactic from the Iranians. And I'm not trying to blow this thing up. I'm not, because these are good things, but we have to be wide awake going into this. We have to understand who we are dealing with. They have constantly, the Iranians, they have constantly tried to play the long game, delay, make things difficult, turn up intensity here, placing mines in the Strait of Hormuz and cutting off supply of oil going through there and so forth, and then talking about negotiating an end to the war, then lobbing a few missiles here. It's just a constant cat and mouse game. And that's part of the design here, because what they've been trying to do is buy time. But they have been decimated. This needs to be clearly stated. The name of the game has changed, or the game itself has changed here, between the United States and Iran. Trump now, you'll know last summer we struck Iran, and then of course this spring we had a prolonged strike against Iran, and we have decimated them in many ways. We've taken out all sorts of their top leadership. There is no one who remains, or very few people who remain, who were even connected with the original leadership that we were dealing with, say, 3 months ago, right? That was stopped immediately. We've also seen their defenses crippled. We've seen their nuclear program at least severely damaged. So this is a different game. This is Iran knows that they're dealing with someone who is very serious about them not having a nuclear weapon. And that is important, because when the only leverage you hold, and I am not a guy that wants to see a war begin, but if the only leverage you hold is having a meeting and scolding the person or having really strong language in some resolution, if that's the only leverage you have against these people, you don't have any leverage. It's only when you're prepared to back it up that things begin to happen. And I'm not making any promises here. I don't know. I do know that they are trying constantly to find a way. They, Iran, are trying to constantly find a way to have a nuclear weapon without being completely decimated and destroyed by the United States of America, or dare I say, even risking the possibility of a larger, more intense war that would include ground troops, and who knows what else, what other types of weapons the United States and Israel may unleash upon these folks if they continue to take us down this path. But it is necessary. It's terrible that we've had to do this, but what was required for this wasn't that you had a madman in the White House. What was required for this was that you had madmen in Iran running the nation. That was what was required. And now, because we have strong leadership and a willingness to do whatever is necessary to win this war, that's what changed. They're the ones. I've made this point many times on here. The Iranians, not the Iranian people, but the Ayatollahs, the rulers, the leaders of the Islamic Republic of Iran, they were the ones who decided. They have decided that they want people to die, that they hate people who do not convert to submit to their brand of Islam. And if you don't, they believe they have a green light from Allah to do whatever it takes to even kill people who don't submit. And so they've made that decision. The only thing then the responsible people can do is, if one country has decided people are going to die, the only responsible thing a strong leader can do from another country is to step in and say, it's not going to be people dying on our side. In fact, we're coming after the people who are making these plans, who are hoping to see American and Israeli deaths. We're coming after them because they're the problem. And that's what we did. And listen, there's a greater possibility that something good could happen, can come from this now than at any point since 1979. But let us not underestimate what we're dealing with as well. The last 2 points here really quickly. The U.S. would allow Iran to resume oil sales through temporary sanctions waivers, and Iran, Oman, and the Gulf states, the Persian Gulf states, would negotiate new shipping and maritime security arrangements for the Gulf. That is the framework for this agreement. That is the direction that this thing is headed. I hope that we could achieve long-term peace, but we have to understand what we're dealing with, and that this, at a fundamental level, the people ruling the Islamic Republic of Iran believe they are on a holy war, that they are completely allowed, completely excused to inflict violence on people in Israel, on people in other Gulf states, on people in the United States of America, U.S. troops, and so forth. That's what we're dealing with, my friends. Got to take a break here. Before I do that, there's a lot of confusion out there about kratom. You've probably heard the headlines, and most of those are based on synthetic garbage that isn't real kratom at all. Real kratom is natural. It's tested. It's handled with care. It's not a synthetic. That's exactly, my friends, that's exactly what you get when you deal with Christopher's Organic Botanicals, natural, tested, handled with care, not a synthetic blend. So, Christopher's Organic Botanicals.com, that's the website. Use coupon code ToddHuff. You'll save 10% off your first purchase. Christopher's Organic Botanicals.com. Truth, tradition, transparency, my friends. Back in just a minute. Yes, my friends, I'm sorry I jumped off that so quickly. I looked at the clock and realized, yikes, I am out of time. So I jumped off quickly there, last segment. But here we are coming at this full speed ahead here in the final segment of today's program. So that we've gone through the Iran deal. Again, we should be cautiously optimistic about this. There's certainly some promising things that are coming from this. And hopefully there will be lasting peace and an end to the violence and the threats of violence. But again, my friends, let's not just go into this with wishful thinking. but it is a good development. It's necessary. And we are in this position because of the actions and decisions that were made by the Trump administration. Make no mistake about it. Just like suddenly when Trump walked into the White House for his second term in 2025, suddenly the border was secured within weeks of his assuming office. Just like those realities, that those set of circumstances became a reality in that particular point in time. Likewise, well, from decisions that he had made, policies and so forth, a seriousness to the issue, that's what resulted was a secure border when he walked into office in 2025. Likewise, we're in this position because of what has been happening both behind the scenes, but also often in the headlines here with the Islamic Republic of Iran. Trump has gotten them to a point to where they're basically forced to the negotiating table. They're going to probably do this kicking and screaming. There's probably going to be some hiccups and some maybe some defiance of the settlement and so forth, the agreement. We will see. Only time will tell. But we should not be surprised in the least if this thing gets challenged by the Ayatollahs in Iran. Friends, let's talk about something important really quickly here. That's your money. You worked hard for it, but is it working hard for what you believe in? At 48 Financial, they specialize in biblically responsible investing. That means they screen out companies that do not align with your faith and your values, and they'll help create a plan that fits your goals and your purpose. The best part is that they will show you how your current investments, what you have today, how those stack up against your values. Visit 48financial.com/Todd to find out how your current investments align with your values. Again, 48financial.com/Todd. You'll take a quick and easy assessment. It's painless. I did it. You can do it too. 48 Financial, helping you align your money with your mission. Okay, I don't have the time. I knew I wouldn't, but I'm actually going to make an audible here. Change the play. I'm not going to talk about J.D. Vance on The View as much as I want to, because I wanted to go through that Iran deal. We will certainly probably talk about that tomorrow. We don't know. I never know what's going to happen overnight in the news. But that's my plan, is to talk about J.D. Vance being on The View yesterday. We can do that tomorrow. I just want to spend a moment talking about what's happening in Major League Baseball. You know, I'm not a baseball fan. I'm not a hater of baseball. I actually love to go to games in person. We have the Indianapolis Indians here in my area, a triple A, not an MLB team, but a triple A team. Good baseball. When I was a kid, that was a feeder system for the Montreal Expos. Now I think it's the Pittsburgh Pirates. I can't even say that with absolute certainty today, but I think it was for a period of time, a feeder program into that organization. But baseball's a wonderful sport, right? It's America's pastime. A lot of history with baseball. So Major League Baseball, as is the case with a lot of these sports leagues, they have chosen to celebrate Pride Month. So Pride Night, I should say. And so they will have their players wear rainbow-themed hats during games. Now, I don't know if every team in the league does this. I think one of them doesn't. I think I've read that the Texas Rangers don't. Don't know if that's certain, but it's a lot of these teams do this. And so players for the San Francisco Giants, right, on Pride Night. I said Pride Month, forgive me, Pride Night. June is Pride Month, but Pride Night. So they have these rainbow-themed hats, and a few of the players, pitchers, they say, look, they're going to force us to wear these hats, but we're going to write Bible verses on the hats. And they wrote Genesis 9:12, which is interesting because my family and I are just going through the book of Genesis together here. And these are the verses after the flood when God destroyed the earth, all life on the earth, all the animals, all people except for the 8 people who stepped onto the ark: Noah, Ham, Shem, and Japheth. Those are his sons and their wives. So there were 8 people who stepped on that ark. At the conclusion of the flood, when they walked off, God gave them a rainbow as a sign. The rainbow, God said, was a sign of the promise that he would never destroy the earth again by a cataclysmic flood. And it's a promise, and it's been hijacked, right? And that's really, these verses are talking about what God created the rainbow to do, and of course, how that's been perverted. I will say this: baseball players, sports figures, you're going to have to stand up to this, and it's not going to be easy on you, but I got to go. SDG.